Mike Owens here, and today I'm joined by the epidemic, Jordan Vucenic, who returns to action the 4th of November in the long-anticipated rematch against Paul Hughes. Jordan, always a pleasure to get your time. How are things with you today?
Yeah, very good. As you can see, this camp, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, and I've been a nail an awful lot this camp.
May I ask who's been the hammer? Who have you brought in for training, for sparring?
Who hasn't been the hammer? Just my coaches are sort of this one. They're getting me knackered, and then I'm sparring. They're telling guys, look, if you score one takedown on this guy, we're going to class that as you winning the round. So people have just been trying to get after me. So I've been a nail an awful lot, as I say. Always getting beat up and bruised. My missus keeps saying, bloody hell, look at your face. So it's been a good one.
Has there been a shift in this camp? Have you done anything differently? Has there been any mentality change? What have been the key focuses going into this next one?
There's been massive shifts in this camp. A lot of our team have broke up. There's a lot of coaches that have left, and a lot of new coaches being brought in. So yeah, it's been vastly different, but some good changes. So we just got to keep on keeping on. But for self growth, it's been fucking crazy.
100%. We've got to get into this fight. We've got to get into this, as I mentioned, the long-anticipated rematch. First thing I want to kind of get into, because it's just kind of gone on for so long, hasn't it? We had the initial fight a couple of years ago. You faced off against the cage when he beat Charrier just under a year ago. I guess what I want to ask is does part of you's obviously excited to get in there against Hughes? Does part of you kind of want to get it all over at this point?
Yeah, just want to put it to bed. Just want to just get that win on my record and just end this fucking chapter, really. Yeah, and hopefully move on to bigger and better things. Hopefully.
What has your opinion towards Hughes changed at all? I mean, I saw a couple of fiery exchanges on the socials, but has anything changed between you and him?
No, I'm not. I'm not asked really. I'm not asked of him. The first time I fought him, I really wanted to put a big statement on, and now I know the guy, and now I realize, I needed that sort of in my career because now I know the difference between actors and fighters. Do you know what I mean? And now I know how more to deal with that persona of well, yeah, his persona, this sort of arsehole persona. I know how to deal with it more this time, and a lot of it you've just got to let go over your head. A lot of the stuff he says, you can't take it to heart, or you can't bring that into the fight with you. And I think that's what I sort of did the first time. I just really wanted to get after him and really put a beating on him. Whereas I've said it plenty of times, but this time I'm going out there for me. I'm going out to show that I'm the best in the world.
We talked about this when we first spoke, I think in February or March, about when you did a face-off and he was very cordial with your partner, and then when the cameras turned on, the shit talking began. So I'd like to know, as a person, do you actually like Paul Hughes?
I do. I think he's a good guy. I do. Like I said before, I think the real Paul Hughes is a nice guy, but the persona of the fighter Paul Hughes is an asshole. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how he wants to be with me when I beat him, November 4th. If he's happy to be pally and friendly, then I'm happy for that also. And if he wants to sort of hold on to that fire and be a knob, then let him do what he wants to do.
It's a bit of a funny one in that way, because I think as personalities, especially in the MMA space, you're both quite different. Like, he kind of leans into the bullshit, he leans into the persona, and you're very, at least from my perspective, kind of against that. You like to be you. You like to be Jordan Vucenic at all times. It's a strange contrast how different you kind of are.
Yeah, I think the difference is if I tried to do that, you would tell it's forced.
Mm.
If I tried to sort of like call guys out and be and get into guys' heads, it would be forced. I mean, I just say what I think on the day, and if that gets people pissed off or not, that's just what it is. Nothing's pre-planned, nothing's written down or memorized in my head. I just say what I think, and you either like it or you don't. But I'm not an asshole
Mm.
to 90% of people, and the 10% of an asshole to it's only probably because they've been an asshole to me first. Do you know what I mean?
Would you like a difficult question?
Would I like what? Sorry.
Would you like a difficult question?
Yeah, go on then.
What does Paul Hughes do better than Jordan Vucenic?
Sells himself better than me.
I mean, okay, fair enough. But I'm saying in terms of skill sets, is there something you can pinpoint and say you think he does better than you?
No, I can't say there is in any particular area. I think we're very close matched in a lot of the areas. I think maybe there was parts of his game that was better than mine when we first fought, but I don't think that's the case anymore. The development wise of me over the last 2 and a bit years since we fought has just been silly. Do
Mm.
you know what I mean? You wouldn't believe me if I told you how much I believe I've leveled up and how much the people around me are telling me I've leveled up. You wouldn't believe it. Um, but skill for skill, in the pocket, out of the pocket, in the grappling exchanges, forwards, backwards, I believe I'm better than him everywhere.
Well, if we take it that a little bit further, regardless of you versus him, what do you think Hughes does well? What do you think are his key attributes going into this fight?
Uh, I think he's very good at being able to mix it up. Whether that be in punching to the head, punching to the body, whether that be wrestling, grappling. I do believe that he's very clever and he's very technically savage with it all. He can switch it up on the spot. And that's something I believe I can do also. But yeah, when I watch Hughes, that's something that he's good at. He doesn't land a big shot and rush it and go for the finish. He's calm and calculated. And if he lands a big shot and he's against a dangerous guy, as with Charrier, rock Charrier, and he didn't sort of swarm him with big punches. He shoots for a takedown and takes Charrier down. And it's little details like that that I have to be very respectful of. That if he does crack me with a shot, I can't be thinking, oh, he's going to come at me now. I've got to be smart enough to know that this guy is clued up enough to look for takedowns and to steer away from those sort of hard fought areas and make it easier for him.
You talk then about leveling up, and I kind of want to touch on the Hendon fight because when we first spoke prior to that fight, you talked about the narrative some people were rightly or wrongly talking about. I can remember the quote, the split decision machine. So you referenced a couple of people were talking about you, and you go out there and you finish Hendon in under two. How kind of not validating, but how good did that feel to get that finish and to defend your title the way in which you did?
It felt good because of the level Hendon was at. If that was above him that I fought, it wouldn't have felt good. But knowing how good Hendon was, but it sort of takes it away that Hendon, was training for somebody else. Hendon weren't training specifically for me. If Hendon was a backup fighter, like the Volkanovski at the coming up, like he's actually going to be there in case somebody pulls out. If Hendon's job was that, then yeah, maybe things could have been different because then he could have game planned for me. That sort of took it away from me. That he was training for maybe a completely different style when he drew the short straw and got me. But overall, I was happy with it because he's a good opponent. He's a solid top level guy. The only people that have beat him is me and Paul Hughes. But yeah, it took it away from me a little bit. Like I said to a lot of people, the only thing that could have made that night better would have been if it was Paul Hughes across from me and not Hendon. But 4th of November, that gets to be the headline.
Did it feel in any way different defending the title as opposed to winning it when you did against Sharia? Were there any different emotions attached?
Just with the Sharia, I sort of felt everyone was against me. Everybody was writing me off, and I felt it was a lot closer. A lot of people were saying, I think Vucenic's the man. I think Hughes is the man. So that was the difference. I think when I fought Sherry, I was almost a bit disrespected. Like, what? You just don't think I can come out here and I can beat this guy? But I was getting the credit where credit was due when I was rematching with Hughes. People saying, wow, what a fight, blah, blah, blah. And then when I got Hendon, a top prospect, but I just knew, I said it to you, I said it to everybody. I was going to finish anybody that night. It could have been Volkanovski you would have put in there. I was going to be finishing them. I'm so dangerous when we get into those positions. I was saying it to my coaches there after sparring, when I'm tired in the rounds and, the rounds ain't going how I want it to go. And then I'll submit someone out of nowhere or I'll drop them with a shot. And I'm always dangerous at any point and I'm always switched on and I can always just get you out of there. Doesn't matter if it's a minute left or a minute in the beginning of the fight, I'm ready.
We're talking about here about how much you leveled up prior to the first Hughes fight, and I think anyone who's watched your career, one thing I will say is you can see the progression fight over fight. How much did you feel like you'd leveled up in the Hendon fight, given the year out and all of that?
I felt massively different going from the Sharia fight to the Hendon fight. Um, so many things that went wrong in the Sharia fight. I just worked and worked and worked, and I had the broken thumb, and I was just training them, training them, training them, and going through it in my head constantly. When I had the broken thumb and I couldn't do it, just going over in my head what I needed to work. Was shadow boxing in the mirror with the broken thumb, and I was getting all the little things correct that I could do myself while I was in the house, you know. And I just felt like a different fighter. I say it every time, but the version of me now would finish the version that fought Hendon back whenever I fought him.
Is that something that's innate in you? Have you got an ability to pick up things quick? Have you got an ability to learn quick? Is that, when you're saying about this rapid development, is that something that is unique to you, or is it mindset? Where do you think that comes from?
Maybe unique to me. I started MMA very late. You know, I didn't start MMA till I was 18, so I didn't have no bad habits to fall back on. You know, you get karate guys come in, and it's very hard to change certain bits of their game because they've had it drilled into them since they've been kids to
Yeah.
do it this certain way. I've never had anything like that. The only thing that sort of goes against me with starting it so late is flexibility. I'm not a very flexible guy, you know. I haven't been doing all these stretches when I was a kid. I'm trying to build up the flexibility now, but again, it's nowhere near some of these guys that I meet in the gym that can do these crazy things. That's sort of what goes against me. But the thing that goes for my favor is I can pick stuff up so quick. You show me, I can pick it up. As long as my body can let me do it, you know, if you showed me a wrestling defense where you're doing the splits, I couldn't obviously do it. But you know, we had a new wrestling coach come in, and he said to one of the guys, he doesn't speak a lot of English, but he said, I really like this guy, you know, on about me. He said he picks up things so fast. I can't even speak good English, but all I have to do is show him at once, and he's got it straight away. And that's just how we've been with a lot of things. You could watch me spar today and say, right, you need to fight in the pocket a bit better now. You need to do boom, 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 and you can guarantee next week I'll do everything you've said. And that's just how it always have been. I'm very, very fast at just molding my game to what it needs to be molded to.
I want to talk about the first Hughes fight, and what I want to talk about is there's a narrative. I don't think we talked about it the first time we spoke, but there's a narrative that maybe Hughes got screwed on the cards. And the reason why I say that is, if you saw Cage Warriors on the weekend, both Paddy Pimblett and Daniel Strauss said the same thing, and it was a very close fight, 100%. But there is a narrative that Hughes maybe got a tough decision. How much going into this fight is about proving the doubters wrong, about kind of stamping your authority and saying, no, this wasn't a an unfair result on Hughes. This is maybe right and a wrong to a certain extent.
I think it's more for me to show that, you know, that was the sort of John Jones Gustafsson thing. That was the best he's ever going to be able to do against me. And the second time around, it's going to be a completely different fight. That's how I'm seeing it in my head. When the last fight ended, I thought Hughes had won. You know, when we were standing ready to get our hands raised, there was no doubt in my mind that I hadn't won the fight. I thought, right, he's won this fight. You know, back to the drawing board, blah, blah, blah. And luckily for me, you know, someone was on my side that day and I got my hand raised. And, you know, for a while after that fight, I didn't think that was the correct decision. You know, I did feel bad for Hughes. And I said to him in the cage straight after, you know, look, I thought you edged that there. I thought you got the decision, because I thought I was up until the end when he hit me with the switch and then the switch again. And then he broke away and landed that little flurry. I thought to myself, right, he's just stole it with that very, very last bit. He stole the fight. And you know, when you listen to certain people, how the way they judge it, they say, you know, those takedowns didn't score because she's popped straight back up. But to me on the day, I thought I lost the fight. And watching it back, I mean, 8 times out of 10 that I've watched it, I thought, yeah, I think Hughes got screwed there. The other 2 times I thought, no, you know, maybe I did win that fight. So I've never been one to shy away from saying that. But what I can guarantee you is on November the 4th that it's going to be completely different. We're going to be completely different.
100%. Talking about things being completely different, I'd like to make a comparison between when we first spoke and when we're speaking now. Is your son's in the world? Vucenic is now in the world, your baby son.
Yeah.
How does that change the life of a fighter? How does that change preparation, camp, all of that?
Oh, I don't sleep anymore. It's hard to get the recovery. When I used to always fight, it was always just for me. Whereas now I've got that extra purpose. And I know a lot of people say that, and it's sort of the cliche thing, but I sort of do it for him now. And yeah, I don't want people to say, oh, your dad had a world title and then he lost it. And then he fought a couple of times again. Then he got to the UFC. I want people to say, yeah, your dad won the world title. He defended it twice. He went to the UFC and then he won the UFC world title. That's what I want. That's what I want for him. And then it just gives me that extra. He comes to my sparring on the Tuesday and he watches my sparring, and it just gives me that little extra to put that bit of extra in.
You're not just fighting as a selfish endeavor, to a certain extent you've got to do it for yourself. But at this point, you're doing it more for him than you are for yourself, or is it still all about Jordan Vucenic in a way?
It's still all about Jordan Vucenic because I have to be selfish. I'm the one getting my face punched in. I'm the one getting all these shots, as you can see. But it's more for my legacies for him. I want him to be proud of who his dad is and what his dad's done. I don't want his dad to be a sort of coulda, woulda, shoulda. I want his dad to be the man. So, in terms of leveling up, training every day, that's for me. I'm an egotistical person. I want to be the best. I want people to say, like, yeah, you're the man. I love when I drive past people and they're like, yes, champ. I love that. And I want that to keep up. And I get a lot of respect from a lot of legit guys, the guys that I respect and I think are legit. Give me a lot of props and give me a lot of respect, and that's a good thing. When you've got people up and coming, or you get people that I think, yeah, he's wicked, and they say, I really look up to you, blah blah blah. That's a real big push for me as well. And just got to keep on going.
100%. I've got to ask because I know I think once again in the time since we spoke, we've got the face tattoo on your face. I've got to be honest, I'm not a tattooed man in any way, but the face tattoo is a pretty aggressive move. I know we've got the ears tattooed, but why the face? Why specifically the beautiful face?
I don't know. I've always wanted. I suppose it's that sort of thing. Everybody always says, "Don't ever get your face." Don't. You've got a nice face. Don't ever get your face. It was always that thing. I'm going to get my face. And I got the 7, and it was only little, and only certain people noticed it. You had your face done. And I just thought, where else when I'm picking up my boy that he can see, that it shows how much I love him. It's right there. It can't be sort of hidden. And then, I just thought, fuck it, I'm going to put it there. And the funny thing is, when I used to get tattoos, people used to go, oh, bloody hell, when I got my neck tattooed, they're like, fucking hell, that's a big step. The funny thing was when I got my face tattooed, no one even batted an eyelid. People just said, yeah, you had your face done. I said, yeah, like, all right. There was nothing. There was no, oh, you're mental. It was just, that was it.
Well, if we turn the conversation back to the 4th of November, George, what I would like you to do very, very quickly, I would like you to give me a walkthrough of the 4th of November. What happens from from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep? Can you give me a bit of a walkthrough of the perfect day?
I wake up, I feel fully hydrated. The weight cut's gone perfectly. I'm sitting at a nice weight. And I just have a nice day, hopefully I get a FaceTime with my son. I get to speak to him, get to see the missus, get to see Arthur, and then I just get into that cage. Well, I do my walkout, I get the big uproar like I did the last time. Chasing Status starts playing. The place is deafening. I get into that cage and I just can't wait for that moment when it just the ring announcer walks out to the middle. He starts introducing us. He says, fighting out of the red corner. I just can't wait for that moment. And I can't wait when the fight starts and the clock starts and we just come out and then we just start going at it. That's the bit I can't wait for. That's all this hard training, all these times of being the nail, and it's all going to come down to that moment. And look, I would love it if that I would come out and it'd just be so one-sided and that blitzing. But if it's not, and it is one of those dig deep wars, I can't wait for it. Honestly, I can't wait for it.
Well, as I've said at the start of the hour, it's probably the most anticipated fight of the year in Cage Warriors. I think probably the fact that it was cancelled all the way back in March has made it even more anticipated going into this second booking. But George, it's always a pleasure to get your time. It's always a pleasure to get some of your time, and thank you for that. And I wish you the best of luck for the 4th of November, my friend.
No, thank you, mate. 4th of November, here we come.
Before we finish, how can people find you on social media and any sponsors you'd like to plug? The floor is yours for the last one.
Yeah, just Jordan Vucenic MMA. Instagram's the sort of main platform I use. And just thank you to everybody. Yeah, thank you to all my sponsors. There's so many I wouldn't even try to name. There's some big ones coming in that have been massive help. And yeah, I'm just excited. I'm excited for everything that I've got, and I'm excited for everything that I've got coming.
Make sure to subscribe to the LowKickMMA YouTube channel for all the latest news, event previews, and interviews with some of the biggest stars in MMA.